You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 175. Living in the past is not time well spent. However, pausing to reflect on God's goodness in our lives gives hope and reminds us that He is near. Join me as we take a walk down memory lane and reflect on the top 15 episodes from Season 1 of Faith Breathed Hope. Today's top 15 from Season 1 comes to you from a solo episode on stewardship. If you are currently grieving the loss of a loved one or know someone who is, Life After Losing a Loved One, How to Turn Grief into Hope, Strength, and Purpose was written to help you move forward in your great pain. In the book, I walk you through the grieving process so that you understand thoughts that sit alongside grief and provide practical steps to encourage you to process your emotional journey while caring for your physical, spiritual, and mental needs. You can grab Life After Losing a Loved One, How to Turn Grief into Hope, Strength, and Purpose on Amazon, along with the first grief book in our children's series based on the fruit of the Spirit, Adventures of Lily and Izzy, The Imagination Journey. Look for the second book of the Adventures of Lily and Izzy, The Gift of Love, coming soon. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast. I am your host, Christina Reisinger, and today I'm going solo. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing a topic that I feel the Lord has been placing on my heart for over the past year, and that topic is stewardship. I started out in 2017 trying to make sense of losing our youngest daughter and wondered what my life looked like going forward. I thought that I was going to jump into blogging and potentially a new career with a health and wellness company. And then I also started my very first Facebook group at the very beginning of the year. I started it with a new year. I had great intentions. I had planned out all of the content. It was going to be, I think, just like a month to 2 months, and it ended up being 3 months and so on and so forth. But one of the things that I did in that Facebook group was delivered something that I called Faith Encouragement Monday. And they were videos that I spoke to different pieces of scripture, read scripture from the Bible, and it was just really to encourage anybody who was listening in the Word. And I did this for around a year and a half before I started to move on. And then the end of 2017, I registered for my LLC, which is named Izzy and Me Studios after Isabella, who is my daughter that we lost in 2016. And that was my photography company. That was my photography studio. And Izzy and Me Studios began as that photography company, but developed and has been developing as an umbrella for all of the things. I don't know, do any of you call yourself multi-passionate? I had never heard about being multi-passionate until about a year or so ago in the business world, in the world of entrepreneurship. I learned that I was doing things that I considered quote unquote business, and they would morph from one thing into the next. So this led me to this idea that I was multi-passionate. I wonder how many of you listening are multi-passionate. Meet so many women these days that they do all the things. They wear so many hats, and we know that we wear so many hats anyways. But even in business, we're starting to wear so many hats. We have so many passions, so many things that we feel so strongly about. And in 2019, I finally admitted that my blog was not a business. It was rather a space for me to gather my thoughts and cope with the death of my youngest daughter. It was also a way for me to say, hey, you know what, Mama, if you lost a child and it's really, really heart-wrenching, I get it. But I want you to know that you can survive. It was the first place where I kind of figured out that there was hope. And I want to tell you that the hope, it came about in a way of writing and try to figure out my feelings, because you do have to identify those emotions. But it truly came from prayer. It came from putting myself on the floor and saying, you know what, God, I just cannot do this. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I have 3 other children at home that I have to take care of, and my heart is just aching. And so I found an outlet in writing that, served me as a way to cope. And I know that a lot of you out there who go through things, who go through life things, whether it's losing a child or not, you find ways to cope. And writing is that tool for me. I suppose at the time, I secretly hoped that my pain would serve another mom who was drowning in the middle of her own pain, even though this very suggestion angered me at the time, especially just after our loss. I didn't want to help anyone. I just wanted my daughter back. And but see, the thing is, you see that sometimes the Lord allows us, or maybe even causes, and I know those are kind of dangerous words, but he allows us to paddle through the storms in life so that we can be a blessing in the lives of others that come behind us. So while this is not ideal in the moment of that pain and that anguish, it has a propensity to build our character, our confidence, and strength, that we may fulfill our purpose for His kingdom. I've always been a very empathetic person towards others' feelings, and greatly supported the idea of, quote unquote, being validated, until someone wise in the last couple of years shared with me that our validation comes from the Lord and not from our earthly encounters. And that's not exactly the way that he put it, but I remember sitting, in the same room and just being a mess, and thinking that I so desperately needed to feel understood and be validated. And this person, they said, you know what, your validation comes from the Lord. And that was just an epiphany for me. And if you're interested in hearing more about ideas like that, make sure to subscribe to the Kingdom Women's Biblical Encouragement emails. You can attend the first of the Kingdom Women's Summit series, January 21st through 23rd, 2021, and grab your tickets at kingdomwomen.net. Now, when we tend to think of stewardship in the Bible, we're brought to the parable of the bag of gold in Matthew 25:14 through 30, which tells us to be faithful with what we have been trusted with. But many times this leads us to think about our finances. However, I believe that God uses stewardship to grow our character and expand our borders. In 1 Chronicles 4:10 tells us that Jabez cried out to God of Israel. It says, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm, so that I will be free from pain." And God granted his request. Here, he's asking for provision and protection, and is granting the desires of his heart. There are so many other places in the Bible that show us that stewardship expands our borders. For instance, in 1 Peter 4:10, we're also told, and it says, Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. You see, our adversities don't really feel like a blessing. They don't feel like gifts. But I promise you, and I speak from experience, that when you seek the Lord and when you ask Him to take your mess, I know they have different phrases, ashes, oh goodness, I can't even think of them. But they have different things that they say, and they take my mess and make it a masterpiece. And that's probably not even one of those phrases. But God can definitely take anything that happens to you, and He can build your character and make you an amazing human through whatever it is that you've gone through. You don't have to stay in this place where you don't move forward, where you feel like your world has imploded and nothing is going to be okay. And in fact, I really strongly believe, due to my own experiences, that whatever it is that we go through, God takes that if we're willing to give it to Him. And He allows us to be equipped with the tools to help other people, to serve other people, so that we heal ourselves, but we also help other people begin that journey of healing. And that is, just everything that God has shown me in the past 4+ years. So, in December 17th will be 4 years since Isabella has passed away. And it's a hard time of year for me. However, I have seen the steady growth of my business, the steady growth of my character over the past years. The first couple of years were really, really difficult. I was just a hot mess. But, once I started to realize that I was not the one in control, and that God had me, and that He had always had me, and that He would always carry me. And I started allowing Him to give me that peace that it talks about in the Bible, that peace that surpasses all understanding. And then I started living in the things that He had already put in my life, that He had put in place in my life, those gifts and that talent that He had already instilled in me from before birth, and I started realizing that I had a purpose. I had a purpose to use what I had been given to help other people and serve other people. So you see that you're already blessed. The Lord has already blessed you with specific and special gifts and talents, and He's calling you to use them well. When you take the little bit that you have, that you see as your gifts and your talents, and you use them for His kingdom, He opens the aperture. So after I faithfully delivered the Faith Encouragement Monday post for around a year and a half, not knowing if anyone was listening or not, I kind of had this thing in my head, and I asked God, can I be released of this? It got to a place where it felt like it was more of something that I was just continuing to do rather than the service I was called to, if that makes any sense. And I felt like he gave me this very simple piece about moving forward with other endeavors. And so if you're feeling like your prayers have not been answered, and that your big dreams are not panning out the way that you had expected, I'd first like to encourage you to reflect on your accomplishments over a period of time. Look back and see, there's that whole piece of gratitude. You take a minute, and instead of saying, oh, I'm not here yet, I'm not there, it's so far, it's around the corner, and I just don't ever see the end goal, you say, look at all of these milestones I've hit. Look how I have had steady growth. And sometimes that growth is not exponential. Sometimes that growth is just slow and steady. Remember the tortoise, he won the race because he was slow and steady, not because he was the best of the best. It was because he was equipped for that race. You see, I had this feeling, this huge feeling, this overwhelming feeling that there was something huge that I was supposed to accomplish, that my purpose was immense. And I bet that there are some of you out there listening to this right now have that same feeling, that there is something really, really big in your purpose, something that you're supposed to do that's huge. And that may or may not be true. But I've come to a place where I see steady growth in business and collaboration, but most importantly, in my character. I have realized that if God gave me all that I wanted, and I mean just dumped everything on me, especially with how much I've been feeling, how big it is, how much I'm supposed to do, that it's highly likely that it would prove overwhelming and that I would mess it up. So, I just want to encourage you right now, if you're not getting everything right now, it's not dumped into your lap, and you feel like you're supposed to have more, but you don't see it, you feel like you're always waiting, that might be what it is. Maybe God's waiting on you to take what little bit he's already given you and do really great things with it. Because remember, you don't have to have everything. You don't have to be the best of the best and the most amazing of everybody else in the world and have, all of the money and all of the tools. If he wants you to do it, he's going to give you the tools. He's going to equip you to do that mission. But you have to take it and you have to say, okay, I'm faithful, I'm willing, I'm going to honor you, I'm going to be obedient, and I want to see what you do with me. Lord, I want to honor you. Because it's only when we prove that we can handle and do well with the small things that we're given more, and that we see our borders expanding in intensity and strength. Since beginning the blog and the photography company, I have written and self-published my first book, Life After Losing a Loved One, How to Turn Grief into Hope, Strength, and Purpose. And by the way, you can grab that on Amazon as a paper copy or on my website, ChristinaReisinger.com, as an ebook. I have also obtained my certification as a grief coach, hosted 2 virtual grief symposiums, and created the Kingdom Women Summit series for all of 2021, or at least it's in the works, it's in the plans. Your first summit is going to be January, like I said before, January 21st through 23rd. So I just want to encourage you to be in prayer as you ask God to work in your life and use the gifts and talents that he's already given you. He's already set those out for you so that you can fulfill your purpose for his kingdom. Okay, when we're asking the Lord to give us provision and help us be good stewards of the things that he's given us, it's not about us, it's about him. It's about furthering his kingdom. And so when you become a good steward of what you've been given, he can expand your borders, and then he will say, well done, good and faithful servants. Anyways, I hope that you continue to be blessed and bless others, and we will chat soon. And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.